guys, Saf here with another Raid Shadow Legends video, and today we're going to be talking about, of course, the Summon Rush, the Fusion calendar. I am basically already out of it on the free-to-play. I've decided I just don't see how it's viable for me to try and push this on the free-to-play. The free-to-play is in a weird state where it's essentially trying to get its clan boss team together. We had some really awful luck with the Gnut book. I will probably be releasing a video kind of doing a bit of an update once Gnut is fully sort of set for the free-to-play videos. But yeah, he's kind of like not got that A2 booked, so I can't quite get the clan boss to an Ultra Nightmare state. So yeah, the free-to-play is in a real rough spot. You need so much for this. We're going to be talking today about the schedule, what I think about it. We're going to be looking at the Summon Rush schedule here and the Dungeon Divers. I know there's been some kind of comments around about Dungeon Divers recently being very, very difficult, which I do appreciate, and I have some opinions on that, and I figured why not? We need to do some shard pulling as well, so I might as well make this a bit of a is the fusion good and a few shard summons. So we're going to be looking at that. And yeah, so we're going to have a look at this, and we're also going to be just having a brief discussion about Emic and whether or not it's still worth going for. So let's talk about the elephant in the room first. This is the new fusion schedule. This is the first time that I can remember, and now correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure this is the first scenario where we've had a fragment champion the player have encouraged us to get more than once at the same time, right? We've had fragment champions in the past where you can kind of get close to 2 or you can get an extra 40, but they've never really required us to get the same fragment champion multiple times. Now, it's the first time they've done this, and they've done it 4 times. And as I was expecting, normally when we get a fragment champion, you have excess fragments for each individual champion, right? Like if you think a traditional fragment kind of one legendary, they normally do like you need 100 fragments, there's 115 available, and then there's some excess available in winning tournaments. I had a gut feeling this time that they wouldn't do that for the epics, that you would basically have no room for maneuvering. But what they have done is, of course, thrown in this bonus Summon Rush, which I'll be honest, is like kicking you when you're down. I really don't like this, because if they'd announced it with the actual, okay, how are we structuring the Summon Rush? There's 50 fragments available, which means you can probably skip 2 events with that Summon Rush. Now, I don't know, is it going to be 2 batches of 25, or is it going to be 5 batches of 10, or is it going to be 5, 5, 15, 15, 10, or something of that nature? We don't actually know how this bonus Summon Rush, which is on a Tuesday and Thursday. I mean, there's a whole conversation we can have about the fusion, the summoning schedules these days, but we don't actually know what the structure is. So I'm looking at this going, I cannot, as you would with winning tournaments, make any assumption that I can get this, because I just don't know how difficult it's going to be, because I just don't know what a mid-fusion, mid-week Summon Rush looks like. We've never seen them before. And what you don't want to do is invest all of your resources to get to this point and go, oh, I'll definitely get some fragments out of here, and then realize you can't, because you just, maybe it's just like 50 in one go. We just don't know, right? So it's very unlikely that it's just one batch of 50. If anything, it'll probably be 2 batches of 25, but you just don't know. So we've got to ignore this, which means you have to do every single event. Now, what I was expecting with the Summon Rush and the Chase, which we always normally get, is a split value. So we had 25 here. I was expecting it to be like 10 and 15, but we've actually just got one single batch of 25. We'll have a look at it now when we go back into the game. So if that's the trend we're going to go for, it means that there is only going to be individual batches of 25 fragments across the entirety of all of these events, which is very difficult, which means this champion training event that goes on from Thursday to Tuesday, if that's similar model, that means you're going to have to do a hell of a lot of champion training, because the longer the event, the larger the point requirements. This Dungeon Divers here is a bit longer than this Dungeon Divers here, which means this tells me this will be a harder Dungeon Divers, because there will be more time. So the schedule looks rough. I'm not going to lie. The schedule, I looked at it yesterday when I was considering my free-to-play. I was like, well, I'll see where the Summon Rush is. I did a bit of Dragon, because Dragon at the moment for the free-to-play is a good idea anyway, because you need artifacts. But the Summon Rush at 3,700 or 33,000, I think it is. I think the Divers is 3,700. I feel like it's a bar too high for an account that is only just doing Ultra Nightmare, which is a shame, because this guy would help me do Ultra Nightmare much easier. So the free-to-play is kind of out, and to be honest, it just means I can focus the free-to-play on, getting some more champions to 60. We got Stagnite, we got Geomancer from the last fusion. We can work on more masteries. There's lots of things we can do over there. Now, for my main account, it should be okay, because access to shards, I have the hard mode Doom Tower. We get, let's just reset. We're about to start getting the sacred shards. I get like the gold bazaar that gives me a free kind of monthly sacred shard. We also get like the monthly quest as well. There's another sacred shard. I'm doing Ultra Nightmare every single day. It's quite easy. The boundary for Summon Rush is all about sacred shards. I'm currently sitting on around about 8, so I'm not really worried about that. The conversation really comes around to what is now hard in fusions? What is difficult in fusions? I would say that the arena takedowns are still, even though they've increased them slightly to 390, if you're doing like any sort of gold arena, even my free-to-play can do it pretty comfortably over 3 days. It's not difficult. So these are almost like comparison, like probably the easiest events of all of the fusions, this arena takedown. As long as you use a couple of your refills, you can do it with your eyes closed. It's not a problem. I would say then the next easiest ones are actually the dungeons themselves, because all you need to do is get to stage 20. And I say all you need to. Obviously, some of them are more challenging, Finite being probably the most challenging, I would say. Ice Golem is fine. You just need to build some tolerance in for errors, for fail rates. You're always going to have that problem with Ice Golem unless you're running a very, very, very specific tune. But Finite is the one, I would say, the most champion contingent one in terms of like you need turn meter control, you need the right turn meter control. The good news is if you picked up Gnut in the last fusion, Finite should be kind of okay now because Gnut's A1 is basically as good as a Law's. So as long as you've got it booked and you're using him in that fashion, you're not using him for the A3, you should be pretty much okay to do Finite. You'll keep his turn meter down. So I find the dungeons are actually quite easy now. You just need to hit stage 20 and you can still use like your enemy max HP nukers to do a lot more damage and different things. It makes it a much more accessible way of getting these fragments. So you can get at least in this fusion schedule one of these epics. If you just want the epic, the schedule is pretty comfortable, right? You'll probably be able to get half of an epic from 2 arena tournaments. It's pretty good going. But if you want the legendary, you have to do everything. Then we've got probably what I would say is the next most difficult thing. And some people might argue that these are actually not difficult, but I find them difficult in terms of time. And that's champion training events. Because of my account where it is now, I've got, 200 rank 6s. Champion training tournaments, as you get later and later in the game, become a lot more of a burden. A lot more of okay, I'm leveling champions for the sake of leveling champions, not because I actually have any value in them. There's not many champions that I would really want to 60 anymore unless they're new. So it becomes very difficult to actually find the points for champion training. There's only so many champions you can train. I know for a fact that Scratch has basically got an inventory full of rank 6 legendaries that he doesn't use because he's just done them for training tournaments, right? Because you just run out of champions. So those are the next difficult ones, not because they're difficult to do, but because they take a lot of time and effort. And then we've basically got the 2 big talking points at the moment. I personally feel like Artifact Enhancement is worse than Dungeon Divers. And the reason why I say that is because Silver is the lifeblood of this game, as much as Gems are the lifeblood of this game. You can't really do anything without Silver. You can't build teams, you can't upgrade artifacts, you can't even summon shards, you can't even do things in the tavern like upgrading champions and leveling up champions without Silver. So having to actually put so much into 3 artifact enhancement events is a lot of effort. So I find the artifact enhancement events are worse than the dungeon divers, but that's mainly because I've been finding that the dungeon divers, they've been trying to position them more sensibly. I think they made a mistake this time. I think they basically started dungeon divers a day too early, and I think they've also started dungeon divers 2 a day too early. And I think they've extended Dungeon Divers 2 1 day too early, because it should really go Dungeon Diver starts tomorrow or today, which means that you have an extra day to do both Dragon and Ice Golem in 1 Dungeon Divers. You can see that's what they've done with Fire Knight, right? You've got 1 day of Fire Knight here, and then it goes into the Spider. So you can basically do 2 dungeons in 1 diver event. And if you kind of work out the math here, you need 30, I think it was like you need 3,700 in this first Dungeon Divers. In terms of Dungeon Divers points. If you do stage 20, it's about 12.83 Dungeon Diver points per run on average. When you take out the averages of what you get in terms of artifacts, you get about 12.83 Dungeon Diver points per run, which means for 1 tournament, which was I think around 2250, you're doing around about 120 to 130 dungeon runs to complete the tournament. And you would need around about 300 runs to complete the Dungeon Divers. So if you had 2 tournaments, both requiring 130 runs. That would put you in about 260, 250 runs, give or take. And you would need about 50 sort of runs left for the Dungeon Divers, which you will be able to supplement through champion training, right? You can see here, this Dungeon Divers 2 and 3 is supplemented by champion training. So you would do a dungeon into champion training into another dungeon. That's how I see it. So I actually think Dungeon Divers, if you use your resources correctly, does kind of make sense as to why they've increased the points a little bit. And they have been kind of positioning things sensibly. Like you can see in the next CVC, Spider Tournament is on at the same time as Dungeon Divers is ending, which is a bit annoying. Most people would wait, but that's not a problem. But they've been putting things like Spider on during Clan versus Clan. The Artifact Enhancement is on during Clan versus Clan. So to give Plarium some credit here, because I have talked about how annoyed I am with all this fusion schedule, to give them credit, they are looking at what players are doing, and they are noticing that things like a lot of things are happening during Clan versus Clan. Let's give them more things that they want to do during that time that gives them extra rewards. That's a good thing. I'm much happier doing Artifact Enhancement and Spider during Clan versus Clan than I am doing them outside of Clan versus Clan, because that's generally where I do most of my Spider and Artifact upgrading, because it's very valuable to do it. Therefore, my level of an account, which is we're pushing high Clan versus Clans, especially this one, which will be a personal Clan versus Clan as well. So that's the kind of like the thing with Dungeon Divers. Artifact Enhancement is just super expensive. It's like 20 to 30 million silver per event. You need like 60 million for this fusion over what I feel like is a very short calendar window. It's like basically 13 days. In 13 days, you have to get 60 million silver, do 3 Dungeon Divers events, 4 tournaments, 2 champion training events, and 3 summon events. In 13 days, it's a bit too much. It feels like it could be extended out a couple more days, if I'm being honest. Maybe we run it to Friday or something. But clearly they probably have other plans along there. So that's kind of like my breakdown of the fusion schedule. Obviously, it is what it is. I'm not doing it on the free-to-play. It's too difficult. I just don't have the shards. I just don't have the events, the clan boss built enough that I can build up a shard counter for this, which is frustrating. But that to some extent is good, because I can just focus all of this on my main account. I don't actually have to be stressed about 2 accounts. So we talked a lot about the different things. As you can see, the Summon Rush, this 3,000 for a Summon Rush is a bit of a joke. It should be 10 and 15. Like, the fact that I have to basically invest, 500 per sacred shard. So 500, that'd be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 sacred shards before I even get anything that I want. Because let's face it, all of this stuff at the top row is trash for a high level account. 100 energy. Wow, that's amazing. Like 50 gems is more valuable than 100 energy. 250,000 silver, I can basically sneeze and lose that. A rare skill tome I have no use for. This Immortal Soul Essence is worth more than all of this combined. And an epic skill tome that's not really valuable. So, you know, they probably need to, like, maybe that needs to be 200, that needs to be 300. It's not much to ask for, right? Like 7 brews, maybe make that like 15. Silver, they always devalue it. I don't mind the rare skill tome, I guess it's fine. Maybe this should be a 3D, right? Just lift it up a little bit, because essentially what you're asking me to do is commit 6 sacred shards on a times 10 I might not want to do to get 1/4 of a champion. It's too much. It's too much. I'm not a fan of this. Normally they're around about like 2150 and then like 3700 for like more actual numbers. Like you get an epic at 3700 or like this high number here. I was expecting this to be around about 2150, or even like you split it where you basically give them like 1500 is 10 and then 3000 is 15, right? At least then I can offset it. But hey, it is what it is. Dungeon Divers, I haven't started doing Dragon yet, but this should be fine. I mean, we've got these gold chests as well, which, you know, I always say with these chests, I don't mind them putting the chests in if they replace a bad reward with a chance to get a good reward, but you'll probably get a bad reward anyway, right? Because I haven't lost anything and I've gained a chance to get something. If they suddenly started like removing my ancient shard and only giving me like 200,000 silver, that'd be pretty bad. But I do think we just need to take the silver out of these chests. Like, come on, 300,000 silver? That's awful. It's so bad. But yeah, it's just... They just don't value silver. It's baffling to me. Dragon Tournament, pretty straightforward. It's nice that they've put Force Potions. Again, give them credit. They've thought about this. There's 4 Force Champions. We're going to give you 7 Greater Potions along the way to help you ascend these 4 Force Champions. Thank you. That's good, Plarium. That's like a free thing you can do that really doesn't make a big deal, but actually helps a lot of players out because they just don't have to go farm the potions afterwards. It's not going to make a big, you know, it's not going to dent the bank account, but it's a good thing that you do that. Again, like this here would normally be just potions, so they've replaced potions with a chance for me to get gems or a book. I think that's a good deal, because you've replaced something that is okay with something that could be better, but you might get okay anyway. 5150, that's about right for champion training. That seems pretty good to me. So I guess we'll end the video with me summoning my shards. I really would like Acrizia, but I only have 4 void shards. That's what we've got on right now. We've got the Acrizia on right now. I kind of already have a Trunder. I kind of already have a Salad and a Dreng, so I'm not really worried about these. I've got like 4 Shamaels, and the Epics are fine. Like, I've got plenty of Geos and Royal Guards and Husks, so it's really just the Acrizia. So that's the negative thing here. I'm basically pulling Sacred Shards for times 10 I don't care about. The only good news is times 10 is basically worthless outside of Void. So we'll pull the 4 Voids. Maybe we'll get an Acrizia. I doubt it. I really doubt it because, you know, my luck is... I'll probably end up walking away with, like, I don't know, Sulfurion if I get anything, which is, in my opinion, a glorified burner. I don't really think Sulfurion is much better than a Mordecai. Are we even going to get an Epic? Probably not, because it's normal rates. And that's just the way the game works. We just get 4 rares. Good old Scrapper doing an audition from Spartacus. So that's not a great start, not going to lie. I am going to go for these fragments here. So we need what? We're at like 620, so we need like 5 pulled. As you can see, I've got plenty of Sacreds. I'm not concerned on my main account. It just feels bad to pull shards for basically a quarter of an Epic champion. But hey, we've got to think that it's for the path to get Emic, which I'm still working on. I need to spend some time actually seeing if I can find a really clever clan boss team. There is a clan boss team out there. Oh, Wiranon. I think Wiranon is a non-dupe. It's not bad. We'll keep Wiranon. I'm still working on a clan boss team for Emic. He's very difficult to put into a clan boss team. Outside of this, like, you can just make Emic a boring, like, replacement for a Helicath if you wanted to. So it's not like that's a bad thing. If you haven't got Unkillable, it's great for that. But trying to actually leverage his A2 into a speed team and actually make it so that it all fits and uses taunt so that he forces the stun onto him, it's actually a lot harder than I thought it was going to be. He's very, very complicated. He's going to be one of those champions that if you do find a speed tune, it's going to be very difficult to actually put together. But you can literally just disable his A2 and put him in place of a Helicath in a Black Knight team, a Warman Crusher team or something like that, and it's absolutely fine. So we just pulled 4 there. I think I need to pull 1 more. Yeah, we need to pull 1 more to get it done. Let's pull the final one here. 1 more Sacred. And then we are calling it quits there. No legendaries. Lady Quillen, actually a very good Epic. I'm pretty sure Wiranon is a brand new champion. Yes. So we got a non-dupe at least. And we did get one of the times 10s, but I'm pretty sure I have loads of Royal Guards. I'm pretty sure like the Royal Guards are like fielding my my faction guardian. So really another Royal Guard is not that much. But a Wiranon is kind of cool. It kind of just adds another value to the faction. I don't really need the Wiranon. I don't think I'd level it. But, you know, it might be for some content that we do a little bit of coverage on. She is incredibly chilly. She does need to find a bit more clothing, but she looks awesome. She is the reviver of the faction, mainly. If you don't have Elva, she's the champion you would go to for carrying you through faction wars. That is her role. That is her job. She's not a crazy Epic outside of that. That is her job. She was added to help the faction for the upcoming or the release of the faction wars. So there you go. I guess we'll leave it there. That is kind of like the review of the Fusion event. This will probably be going out a day after the Summon Rush has already started. Once we get it all changed and checked up. But yeah, I'm not really putting any shards on the free-to-play because I have no value in any of these. Like, I could probably put it for a Royal Guard, but I've already got a Geomancer now. We picked that up at the last Gnut. And it's not like I'm struggling for like champions to work on. I've got loads of champions to work on over there. So as much as these other legendaries would be good, in reality, because it's not a ×2, my free-to-play is still very much in the I'd rather have epics. So the ×2s are better for the free-to-play, where the epics are irrelevant to me. So, you know, the fusion is what we'd get. So we pick up the first fragments of good old Thurgun Isbale. YST is really excited about this champion. It's a shame he's not going to be able to keep a duplicate of her. One thing to note is you can, I think, we were talking about this earlier, we're pretty sure you're going to be able to just like have 400 fragments. So you could save this all for the champion chase at the end of the sort of, or in the middle to the end of the fusion, and basically try to get some bonus points. Although, keep in mind, last fusion, we all did that for the 3 epics, the Ambassador Lethelans, and they just promptly decided to increase the cost of the champion chase by 750 points. So they could repeat the same process again, because I think you'll be able to get enough fragments to make maybe like 2 or 3 of them by then. I'll be holding them just to see what happens when you go to like 100, over 100, because, you know, you can go over 100, but just normally we've never had enough fragments to do it regularly. You know, what happens when you have like 3 of them to pull? But that's what I'll be doing. I'll be holding it. And yeah, I guess we'll just have to see how the fusion goes. So far, I'm going to be blasting some Dragon today now in this main. I'll probably finish the Dragon tournament on the free-to-play because I did start it yesterday. Get the Epic book and try and look for, like, in the champion training event, try and get some legendary books for basically the Gnut, because the A2 is what is really holding that account back. There you go, guys. Thanks for watching. Let me know in the comments below, are you still going for Emic? Are you like, I really don't like this fusion model. Is anyone in watching this video actually liking this fusion model? I think it's just incredibly egregiously hard, and I just don't like the complexity of it. I'd much rather just a traditional or a fragment. I don't like this merging of the two. But let me know if you actually enjoy it, and if you actually look at this in a different way. Maybe I've overlooked something. And yeah, I'll catch you guys in the next video.